nine, eight, seven, six, five, four, three.
And we're back, and it's Wednesday night, and it's a special edition, and hopefully no more quirks tonight. But that's why we call the show Well That Effing Figures. And without further delay, Edward Payson, writer director, welcome to the show. We
Hey,
appreciate your time, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on there, but hey, that's what we call this show at Well That Effing Figures for, because something always happens. So
yeah, you never know with
you never know.
the different apps and stuff, like what's
Exactly.
going to work.
Yeah. So how you doing? How's life
Good.
out there?
Well, it's like you said, it's a little earlier here, so right before dinner time, so perfect time to talk some stuff with you guys.
Yeah, man, it'll be fun. So I know me and Colin, we spoke backstage with it. We did watch a couple of your documentaries. Very good. I mean, I must say, like really, really good. I really enjoy, like I told you, and you had me fooled with the one and with the serial killer one, and yeah, I feel like a dumbass, but hey, like hey, it was that real, I thought. So tell us a little bit about that and how that came to be. I know it was made in 2012, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So it's called the Cohasset Snuff Film. It actually started off as I just wanted to make something very cheap. By that point, I had been out of school for a few years. At that point, I graduated in 2009. And I was working kind of a job that I hated, a desk job. And I had made a documentary at that point, one about bands trying to make it in Los Angeles called Unsigned. But I hadn't made anything narrative in quite a while. And horror is my baby. I love horror, so I like to go back to horror when I can. I don't like to be too far away from it. So I wanted to make something that could be made for relatively cheap, if not, with no budget at all. And I put like the bat signal out and put out a message on Craigslist and all the different little apps to look for different scripts and stuff like that. And lo and behold, a script came to me called Mind of a Serial Killer, Richard Bates. And it was a really rough script. It needed some work. It wasn't in the format that you saw, which was like a faux documentary type of thing. It was more straightforward, like he films everything he's doing, but there were no interviews with people or anything like that. It was just like a found footage film that the killer put on. So I did some work with that, rewrote the script, and worked with the original story person, Darnell Taylor, who I'm good friends with now. And he's like an ex-professional wrestler and stuff, and has a background in just scholastic book. He like makes books and stuff like that for different companies. So we, hit it off and made this script. And the whole idea was every time you watch like a found footage film, the idea is to keep you in the film as long as you can. The gag, if you will, is like wanting people to believe that it's real. And kind of the example I go back to is the first time. I mean, everybody knows about the Blair Witch Project, but even more recent than the Blair Witch Project, I was at the theater watching Paranormal Activity, and it's so easy to trick general audiences because I remember at the end of that film there were no credits. And I remember there was like somebody in the crowd sitting next to me that was just like, "Oh, I think it has to be real because I think if it's a fake film, there has to be credits at the end. So it must be all real." So I was like, what if we make something that never lets you in on the illusion at all and just makes you think that it's real the whole time? So when we were marketing the film, we marketed it as a documentary. Every interview we did, we talked about it as if it was a documentary. We sent fake protesters to the city hall in Cohasset protesting the fake film about the fake serial killer. And then, like, even like I was telling you guys backstage, we got contacted by the superintendent of schools of Cohasset, Massachusetts, and they basically called me and said that they had some people in a panic in the town and that she wanted to have a conversation with me. So I had my producer call back And apparently it was because there was someone in the high school who was named Colin Mason, and that was the name of our serial killer in the film. So it caused all kind of like panic.
Yeah.
And I went even further to find out that apparently the film was flagged by the local authorities because they had thought that for whatever reason there was going to be some kind of like murder spree that happened on Halloween when the movie came out. I don't know where they got that. Nothing ever said that. The movie was releasing in Los Angeles, not even in Cohasset.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where that information came from. But as I was telling you guys, I took the voicemail that I got, and basically that now starts the film. So the film that you watched probably
Mm-hmm.
has that voicemail at the beginning of the movie. And that's something that I put in later after this feast is that voicemail back in there, because I just thought like how good is that as like a thing to sell your movie, an actual voicemail of the superintendent of schools basically telling you that the town's in a panic. So
Yeah. That's pretty deep thinking, like having the fake protesters and all that out there. That's really cool. Like that's some deep thought right there.
Well, your plan worked. It fooled Joe here.
Hey, it fooled me, man. I'm not gonna lie. Hey, now in my defense, I was watching it indiscreetly at work. So, yeah. So, but good show for sure.
All right.
We may have lost him again.
Oh shit. Yeah, I can tell we're not getting a good connection because
See if he messaged me.
well, like I was saying, if we're having too many problems, we can talk about rescheduling.
Yeah.
How's everybody doing in the chat tonight? Sorry for the technical difficulties.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys, but thanks for being here. Mega Demon, Dre, Carlos, thanks for coming in. Yeah, I think the connection may be on his side because he's using the StreamYard with, I think, Safari, so that may be the problem, but we're looking into it. I think he's back. Mega Demon, I'm glad you got your dog back. That's scary, man, when a dog runs out the door. Yeah, you never know. So I'm glad glad you were able to locate him for sure. We're good, T3. How are you? And Dre, are you sick or hurt yourself or what, bud?
Hell yeah, he's got a young kid. He's always sick.
Man, ain't that the truth?
That's
You can have
the
that.
life of having kids right there.
Yeah. That's why we make damn sure before we go over the grandkids' house that everybody's all right. Nobody's sick.
One of my quarter scale predators came in today. I was excited
yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
Waiting for the second one.
I think Josh is about to send off my hot toy that I got from him. So I might get that maybe Monday, Tuesday, maybe. I don't know.
Let me check Instagram. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm checking it now. He didn't let me message him.
Yeah, he must be having problems.
Yeah. Oh, he's back. Here he comes. All right.
One of those days.
Yep. Me, Adam.
it's me, I'm moving to a part of my apartment that's closer to the
Okay.
router and stuff. I don't know if it is my.
What's up, Josh? Welcome to the show, buddy. We're having a little technical difficulty, but we're working on it.
You guys hear me loud and do you hear me?
I hear you. Yes, there you are. Yep.
Cool. Yeah, I tried
Okay.
to move to a spot closer to my router. Said the connection is too unstable for whatever reason.
Okay. No worries. So where were we?
Yeah.
We were talking about the documentary about the serial killer, and where were we at then?
You moved. You left. You're from Derry, New Hampshire, correct? Oh, I think.
I think he's froze again.
Right.
Oh, there he is.
Wonder.
Yeah, I said, I don't know if you heard me. I don't know if you're hearing me.
Oh.
I think it's frozen. You
Yeah.
hear me at all?
I hear you. Yeah.
Are we good? Josh.
Josh. Yeah, Josh. It's called the Cohasset Snuff Film. It's really good. Check that out. It's on. Where did we watch that, Colin? On what streaming service was that? Do you remember? I'm trying to see which. Let me see. This is not going how it's planned, guys, but that's what happens on this show. We may have to reschedule with him because now we're losing valuable time, but we'll see what happens. What streaming service was that? Do you remember where you watched that documentary last night, Colin?
One
What was
second.
that? I forget the name of that service. It's free though, Josh. So it's a good documentary.
It's Plex, called Plex,
A Plex, yeah.
and the other one is on Tubi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Cohasset movie is on Plex, and the one about the All American Massacre that was on Tubi.
Yeah, and that
Was
one was
also
about
very good.
yeah, that's about a Texas Chainsaw Massacre lost film. Yeah, technology sucks, man. It's like StreamYard is really quirky when you try to use Safari for some reason. It rather you have Chrome or something like that. So I don't know. It sucks, but we'll see what happens here. If we don't get him back or we lose valuable time anymore, we'll get him back on. I'm sure he wouldn't have a problem with that. He's been very generous this far. So.
Hey, I apologize. Can you guys hear me in real time? Before there was a huge delay.
No, it was kind of chopping up, but now you're really clear.
Okay, strange.
Yeah.
I didn't really change much of anything.
Okay, no worries. I mean, it happens. It's StreamYard, I think.
Yeah, it says it says right on it that it doesn't work well with Apple products.
Yeah, it doesn't. I think Google Chrome is probably the one that would. I don't know if you are using a laptop or you're using your phone, right?
Using my phone right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to use Google Chrome and it said that you can only use it on Safari.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah.
really? What the hell? It makes me use Google Chrome.
Yeah, it's doing the opposite for me too. But we hear you loud and clear now. So yeah, we were telling one of the guys in the chat, he was really interested in knowing more about the serial killer documentary. So we were telling him where to find it and how good it was. So he's going to check that out, I think.
Oh, but what I was getting at before we broke up, I read that you had moved to California at 20 years old and went to college, and your first feature film you did your freshman year. And I wanted to know how that was being in school and doing a feature film with, what did they say, a 70-person cast? Yes.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. And a lot of it was more like just to I felt like it was like a slap in the face or like a bait and switch when I went to film school, and they were like, oh yeah, you're at a film school, but you don't really get to make films for your first 2 years. So I was like, why can't we just make them right away? So I was like, okay, well, I have a lot of friends here, a lot of rich friends that flew in from wherever to be at this film school who have their own equipment. So let's just make movies on the weekends. And that's what we did for close to a year. And then the film was essentially finished, and I just had to finish shooting, and I was waiting forever for the editor to finish this, give me an edit to look at. And lo and behold, I find out that the editor had moved in the time that I first started giving him the footage and gave him the old footage. And back then it was on mini DV tapes, and he had essentially lost 15 or 16 tapes that he didn't even upload to a hard drive yet. So a year after we finished the film, I had to call all the actors again and reshoot the last 30 minutes of the movie. And by that time, one of the actors, we completely had to change the movie. One of the actors who was the main character had moved across the country. So we then had to change it so it was only about this other character in the movie. So that took about another year to complete. So then we had 2 years to finish the film. And we ended up premiering it, and it ended up being awesome. But it was definitely a learning experience for sure, and definitely a huge undertaking, especially for someone who's never made even a short film before.
Yeah,
Nice.
I mean, that had to have been pretty. It said it was a finalist in the Las Vegas Film Festival. I mean, that's impressive. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, and I for the longest time, I kind of it's like your first baby or whatever. You hold it very near and dear to you, and anytime anybody kind of them, you're kind of oh, you take it all to heart because you don't know how to deal with criticism. I mean, now, no matter what movie I make, there's some reviews that make me turn my head, but I never get as depressed as I would when those first interviews for your first movie come out. But because of that, for a long time I kind of shelved the movie and didn't have it available to the public until recently. Actually, the end of last year, I made it available on Plex, and now it's available for anybody to see because I had a birthday party with just a few friends, and we did a double feature of my movie, and then of the Toxic Avenger, and people were like, "Hey, you should like release this." I mean, it's not great, but it is like a straight to video movie of like the thousands.
Mhm.
Um,
I think we're losing you.
Yeah, I think we're losing you again.
is it lagging again?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh.
It seems to be back now, I think.
I think what we should do is reschedule and well, we can talk about it behind the scenes, but
Yeah.
I think we should just make that decision here
Yeah. I'm with you.
because we already lost after,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to reschedule for you guys. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Thank God there's some more live shows tonight that we can all catch.
Yeah, we got a ton of them. So
Yeah.
I wonder why it's telling him to use Safari and it's telling us to use Google.
I don't know. But like we can talk about that behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why. Like, that's weird. I don't know.
So
Yeah, I messaged him.
let's wrap this up.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna wrap this up for the night. Let's try. Thanks for joining, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. So we're gonna get him back on, and we'll see you again soon. So he just messaged me too, I think.
But thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.
He's switching to his wife's laptop, so I don't know if you want to give him a minute or.
I don't know. I think we already lost so much time. I
Yeah.
want to start fresh with them.
Yeah.
See what he says.
Yeah. All right. So tonight you can go watch Overgrown Third Graders. He has a good guest on, and also Yukon Phil's show, Yakking with Yukon. Those two shows are on. I can't promise that their internet will be any better than what we had here tonight, but we'll see what happens.
Oh yeah, Duffman, nice try there.
What did he say?
Trying to get a quarter scale Predator.
Yeah.
I ordered 2 of them bad boys this time because if you see the prices for them on the secondary market, it's like Jesus, man, $100 NECA quarter scale, and they want fucking $400 for them.
So he just messaged me back. He's gonna get on his wife's laptop. He said, "I'm good to go as long as you want, so we can go a little over."
Oh, all right, it's fine
Okay.
with me.
Let's do it. Sorry, Yakking with Yukon. Sorry, T3, but we're going back on. I think we'll see what happens. I ain't got shit to do tomorrow, but I gotta go to work. But that's just natural.
Now that I told everybody now that we said we were leaving, they probably all left.
Yeah, we have to go back. We have to get back on Instagram and say we're back. Maybe the laptop will be better.
Yeah, I'm thinking it probably should be. All right, I'm gonna send all our guys a message.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey,
Hey, that's better. I can tell already.
oh great.
Yeah. Yeah, I can even hear you.
Use this from now on, I guess.
Yeah, I can hear you a lot better too.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Cool.
We're gonna we started to tell people we're gonna cut it because we didn't know if you were gonna be able to be on the we wanted to give you the amount of time you deserve, so we didn't want to. I didn't know how long you can stay on. I told you hour and 15, but I'm good to go too.
Cool.
So,
Yeah, my wife's out with the baby, so there's no nothing
Yeah.
that's going to stop me. So
good. So all right. So now that we're back, let's get down to the nitty gritty. I'm interested to know, since you're a horror guy, your favorite horror movie of all time.
my favorite horror movie of all time would probably have to be Night of the Living Dead, and probably because when I was growing up, it was kind of the first movie I remembered. My father used to make he was a gunsmith. He used to make bullets in the basement growing up, and it was like a really creepy basement to begin with. But as he was making these bullets, we'd watch horror films in his office with him on a little black and white TV.
Mm-hmm.
And the first movie I remember was Night of the Living Dead. And it's the first movie that stuck with me, and it was the one where I was telling all my 7-year-old friends, 8-year-old friends, whatever it was. This is this amazing movie my dad showed me that I'm not supposed to watch, but he showed me it anyway. While all my friends were watching Disney movies and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. See, me and Colin are big horror guys too. So, that was one of the main things that intrigued us to ask you on the show too. And when I heard that you had the documentary on the Texas Chainsaw, I was like, man, that's my favorite of all time. I guess for kind of the same reason. It was one of the first ones I saw and I latched onto, even though I probably wasn't supposed to watch it. I just sneaked down in the dark and watching in the living room when nobody knows. And I love those old slasher movies, man. They're all so good. And they don't have them like that anymore. Well, they're trying to bring it back with Terrifier. They've done a pretty good job with that. I don't know what you feel about those 2 movies, or 3, whatever it is. But we kind of like them because it's kind of bringing back the old school horror, so the old school slasher.
Yeah, for sure. I love the second one. The second one has some of the best special effects I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Not even just for a low budget movie or whatever. Some of the best effects I've seen in a horror movie, especially when he decapitates the guy in the in the Halloween store. I was this is I watched it back a few times and I was like, this looks real. It looks like a real head being off of somebody. And people, I feel like people don't realize, if they're not filmmakers, sometimes $250,000 sounds like a lot of money, but no movie you watch ever really, unless you're indie filmmakers and stuff, are made for under $1 to $2 million. Mm-hmm. So to do that for $250,000 and to get the kind of response that it did is amazing. But going back to what you were saying, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was kind of the first film that my dad worked me up to. And I kind of talked about that in our documentary on the Lost Texas Chainsaw film. He kind of let me watch all these other horror films, classic horror films and stuff, but there wasn't much gore, blood, or really they weren't that scary, to an average person. But he worked me up to watching, this VHS of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And that was the first time that I actually had horror movies from watching a horror film. So, So later on in life, that kind of made me intrigued in that series, just because of the relationship I had with my dad watching horror films and, enjoying horror films. When I found out that there was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film that was essentially lost. It was made in 1999, supposed to release in 2000, and then never was released. As a filmmaker, as an adult filmmaker, I was like, wow, I need to, revisit this and let's try and find this film. So that's kind of what the documentary is about.
Yeah, it's very good too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I think one of the reasons I think we like that so much is, and I never thought about it till actually watching your documentary, because I brought it up a few times, is it's something that looks real, it looks like something that can happen, because that's the kind of horror I love. I love stuff that could, we talk about Scream all the time, not that it's whatever, it's Scream, but that can really happen. You could be sitting
Mhm.
home one night and someone can call you, and that's the kind of shit I like, you know?
Yeah. Another one like that is like Saul. Saul could really happen too.
Yeah.
You know, and that was one of my favorites too, because when that first one came out and you're watching it, and the whole time the guy's laying in the middle of the floor, and you have no idea that's the guy right there that's doing all this. It just, I was just like, wow, this is crazy. You know, this is really unique. It's different, and
Yeah.
that drew me in to like watch all of them, honestly. And I don't think any of those were really bad. I don't think they were all as good as others, but none of them were really terrible, in my opinion. Saw and any of the Saw movies.
Yeah, and I think the people kind of lump them all together now, but the first movie wasn't even that much of a horror film. It was more like a mystery film. There wasn't even a lot of gore in it until the leg thing at the end. And of course it was James Wan, and he went on to do all these other, like, he's pretty much like the new like horror maestro. He's like people will probably look at James Wan the same way they look at Wes Craven or John Carpenter in the future, because of all these franchises he's just making, you know. Like he's totally responsible for Insidious. He's totally responsible for the Conjuring series. He just, and that has a whole universe now. So it's like, you know, and he's just beginning, you know. I think he's like 6 or 7 years older than I am. So he's not even like 50 years old yet, and he can probably have another good 20-ish years of filmmaking and making, you know, original content. So
True. Yeah,
that's wild.
Definitely.
That's really wild to think about, because his movies are, I love The Conjuring. I like Insidious until the very end, but they're scary movies. They're
yeah, and people of course, like, you know, latch on to him because now he's even doing, like, he did the Aquaman movie. He did one of the Fast and the Furious movies. So he's getting like these big budgets. Now I'm just waiting for him to get these big budgets on a horror film. With the same money that someone would throw at him for an Aquaman movie, let's make a horror film for $300 million.
Yeah, I would love that.
I would love to see it. Yeah.
I would love that. We need somebody to do that.
Yeah.
We definitely do.
So being like a big horror guy, and you have the the video game collecting. Are you a big collector, or?
Oh yeah. I collect. I'm trying to collect the whole Sega Genesis set right now. I have the shirt to show. Oh
no.
Yeah, it's Patrick Bateman doing the.
Oh, nice.
I have a Patrick Bateman third scale statue on pre-order right now. I can't wait for it to come.
Nice. Yeah, so I also collect Ninja Turtles. I collect He-Man stuff. I collect some the original Power Rangers stuff, and then a whole bunch of like little off like brand toys and stuff that you know, not many people like or talk about anymore. Like I have the full Battle Trolls set. Yeah, and then I collect like Stone Protectors or Street Sharks. Street Sharks are super expensive now, so that collection is only like 6 or 7 figures right now. But
yeah, cool stuff, man.
I've been because that's Street Sharks is one thing I've like held off on getting for a long time, and I'm really kicking myself now because like I was just looking on the internet, you know, just to see like what they're going for on the internet, and I'm like $800, $900 for a box, and it doesn't even look. I mean, the box doesn't even look that good. You're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Really wish I had ones I had when I was younger. Still.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool stuff. Do you collect horror figures at all, or anything like that, or statues?
Horror figures, not so. I mean, I have a few like signed ones. Like I have Victor Crowley signed. I more collect horror posters.
Oh, okay.
I have a lot of original horror posters. I have one of my actual things that I love that's in my collection is it's not an original poster, but it's signed by George Romero. But it was right when I came out with my movie Morbid, the horror film that I made in college. And I gave him a copy of the movie, and who knows if he actually watched it, but he was nice enough to like do a little pose with me holding the DVD up and stuff. And he gave me a little personalized note that was just like, Edward, good luck with Morbid and everything else you do. Stay scared, George Romero. And the thing that, I mean, obviously it's special because it's George Romero, but what makes it even more special is that was like one of the last years that he did like personalized messages because, he just started to get up there in age and his health was, declining. So he, the next year he had done some conventions and stuff, but he would sign George Romero or they would have him pre-sign them and just have them there, so you could sign them at his own time because he would just get too tired signing and stuff. So that's in my office. I have like an original Demon Knight VHS poster. I have a stand-up of Jason Takes Manhattan, like a full-size Jason Voorhees
Nice.
standee that would be in like a movie store advertising the VHS.
Yeah.
And then, a bunch of just horror posters. And talking about horror figures, I have like a Victor Crowley signed by Adam Green. And then a bunch of stuff signed by like Kane Hodder. And I have a Nightmare on Elm Street poster signed by Heather Langenkamp. Tons of stuff just scattered all over. I don't have a big enough place for all the stuff I actually want to display. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think we all us collectors, we run out of space really quick.
Yeah.
I had to rearrange the room I'm in now because I was just running out of space, and so I'm actually right now. My desk is in my walk-in closet. I just painted it. Well, me and my wife painted it, and I got the desk in and facing out into the room now. So, because I was just running out of space, and I had my desk over there by the window, and it was just cluttering up. So, had to change it around. But I think we all go through that for sure.
Yeah.
So, have you always been into collecting, or?
You know what? You know where I think it stems from? I wasn't always into collect. I mean, not collecting the stuff that I collect now. Like when I was a kid, I collected like. I don't know if you remember, like, how old are you guys?
35.
Okay, so we're about the same age.
I'm 49, yeah.
I'm 36. So, like, I don't know if you remember, like, all the bookstores growing up used to have, like, these little, like, pewter figures. Like, essentially, they were, like, these metal, like, wizards or, like, dragons or whatever that had, like, crystals in them and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I used to collect those as a kid, and that was really the only thing that I collected until I was an adult. And kind of, I think what led to that is I did like a lot of sports growing up and stuff. And it wasn't really like the cool, like being a nerd wasn't cool when you're growing up. So like that kind of stuff, like once you hit a certain age, like you didn't want to tell anybody about it anymore because you'd be made fun of.
Right.
And I feel like I didn't really have enough time to explore all that stuff, even though I like really love that stuff, like everything from like Ninja Turtles figures to Pokemon cards, all that kind of stuff. And I think when I got older, I was just like, like I want to, it didn't happen like all at once. It was kind of like a gradual thing. Like once I started collecting the Sega stuff, it was kind of like, oh, well, this Ninja Turtles figure would be cool to have as I took a picture of this, Ninja Turtles game. And then I was like, oh, well, maybe I want more Ninja Turtles. And then kind of, balloons from there. But it's collecting's not going anywhere for me anytime soon. I know that. So
is that what led to you doing the documentary, the rarity?
Actually the long and the short of that is yes. I didn't know that I wanted to make, all these documentaries. Essentially, 2020 happened. We all knew that the pandemic happened and stuff. And right around that time, I had watched some YouTube videos from a mutual friend, a friend of a friend, this guy, Jason Horton. And he's basically this guy who had like a full-time job and then was able to essentially quit his full-time job because he was just making full-time movies. And the way that he did that was he made these very low-budget, quick niche documentaries like that. He would have the concept. He would go from concept to finished documentary within a month, and then release them. And then there would already be a built-in audience because he was doing it on something that already had that built-in audience, like, people who love Bigfoot or people who love, a certain band at a certain time, and then just release them by himself, not having to pay anybody or anything like that because he's doing everything himself from shooting them to editing them. and then all the people who are in the documentary, like people usually don't get paid to be in documentaries because it's usually like a jump off for them. It helps them kind of like grow their brand or whatever. So in like 2 years, this guy had like over 20 documentaries, all like making money at once, and basically was able to quit his job and basically live off of the residuals. So now he just like makes films when he wants to make films. Now I kind of adopted his kind of platform, whereas he had like a really strict like formula that he did. He was like, I'm only going to do 4 interviews. They're going to be 1 hour long. I'm going to trim those 4-hour interviews into an hour-and-a-half movie. I'm not going that extreme to where I have like a formula and stuff, but what I did do was when I started doing all the interviews for Rarity, everybody that I interviewed, I thought like, could there be another documentary that this person could be good for down the line? And if the answer was yes, I added questions, for that documentary while I was already interviewing them. So, for instance, like someone who I just interviewed for Rarity, if I want to do like a Sega Genesis documentary in the future, I have all these extra questions just on Sega Genesis. And then like if a guy was good for the toy documentary and then liked something else that I plan on doing a documentary in the future, I asked them all questions about that thing as well. So you just have those that you can just kind of like, bank as you go. And then you have all these like, this plethora of extra interviews when you want to start doing these other things.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see that toy documentary.
Yeah.
What sparked me to tell Joe about contacting you is I follow that Ed's Retro Geek Out on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
He's a good dude. Yeah. And he's actually was like that's the other thing I didn't mention, like with these documentaries, I decided if I was going to do these documentaries, every single one of them were going to be something that I was interested in, because I feel like the best documentaries come from things that you're interested in, not if you're just someone there who doesn't care about the subject matter and you're just making it to make it. Mm-hmm. And being a collector, I was like, this group really doesn't have like a documentary dedicated to them. Like there's a lot of documentaries about retro gaming and stuff, but not specifically about collecting retro games. And I feel like there's a whole subculture that really doesn't get like talked about that often. And it started off as something that was only going to be like 5 or 6 interviews, but then like every time you interview someone, they're so excited by the end of the interview, they want to tell all their friends about it. And then their friends are contacting you. And sometimes it just so happens that like you start out with the people you know, and by the time you're done with the documentary, you have like these people in huge places who, you didn't think you'd ever be able to get on your own. And that's kind of what happened. Like we got James Rolfe, who's like the angry video game nerd. And then for the second documentary, we got like Retro Rick, and Retro Rick knows like Ed from Ed's Retro Geek Out. So, if you just name drop there, we were able to get Ed. And then we're trying to get some other toy people from like, using Ed's name. It's kind of like something that you learn doing documentaries. You start with what you know and who you know, and then you kind of build from like who they know. And by the time you're done, you have this whole like social network of people that are involved in the documentary and can not just promote the documentary, but like kind of send you off into the, onto your next mission of finding the next person that you want to interview.
Now, can people still watch you can obviously still watch the first Rarity. Where can we find that one to watch it?
Yeah. So that one's available on YouTube, on Freeview, which is what IMDb TV turned into recently. It's called Freeview. You can watch it on Plex. You can watch it, I think I already said Tubi. There's like 12 different small avenues you can watch it on right now, and a lot of them are free. If you watch ads or whatever. But for like $2, if you don't want to watch ads, you can get it on Amazon.
All right.
But yeah, it's done in chapters. We tried to make it in a way that's like accessible for someone who doesn't collect video games, but then also some things are so like we jump niche pretty quickly. So people that have heard all the stories, there's still stories for them as well if they want to watch the documentary. And we talk a lot about a lot of games. Like how many documentaries can you possibly watch where they just talk about Mario or Sonic? We put some really obscure things in there. There's a whole section on like renting games and like how the rental market caused some games to be rare. We talk about like specifically like Bible games and how Bible games like became rare because you could only like mail away to get them. There were certain games that were unlicensed games that were only available in video stores, mom and pop video stores specifically, because Nintendo kind of put this, this huge like disclaimer out there to all the different rental stores, the big ones anyway, like the Blockbusters, Hollywood Videos and stuff, saying if you rent unlicensed games at your store, we will not allow you to rent licensed games from Nintendo. So the only people who got away with renting these games, and some of them were like very violent, like that was where like you got the Texas Chainsaw Massacre for the Atari, where you got the Halloween for the Atari. Specifically, we talk about a game called Chiller, which was a game for the Nintendo that's specifically about like torture. You're pretty much playing like, the torture person, and it's a shooting game in the arcade. At home, you can use the zap gun or you can use a controller, but basically like it's like a dungeon and there's like people tied up, like scantily clad people tied up, and you like shoot the rope or whatever, and it tightens and tightens and tightens until it tears a girl's arm off, or you shoot the rope of like a guillotine until it comes down and cuts someone's head off. And imagine like how that's like nothing today for the violence in video games, but like for Nintendo age, it was like this is like the worst game ever made. And we have a whole like segment about that. And then there's a lot of different stuff. I feel like we try to put in something for everybody in that documentary, and it's like an hour and 40 minutes long too, so it's not like a short documentary.
No, it looks really good. Just from the the previews and everything, you can tell that you guys got everything in there. I mean,
yeah.
So when you reached out to those guys, how were they like welcoming? Like, yeah, come in, check out the collection. Like, was it?
Yeah. So we started off with just a few people we know, and they kind of like I said before, they kind of talked to their friends, and those friends were interested until we got to like, right now, like even still to this day, one of the hot button topics in gaming or retro game collecting is graded games. And you see it in it's in every market. So I don't understand why it's like such a big deal with retro games. People act like it hasn't been around in all these other collectors markets. It's like the thing you do when there's something that's like, of value or that you want to keep like pristine or whatever. But for whatever reason, it kind of divided the gaming, the retro game collecting community in two. You have these like really like passionate people who are anti game grading for whatever reason, and they're always the loudest voices. So we've gotten lots of DMs, like death threats, even like people saying like, F you, like we're gonna review bomb your movie because you have these people who are in charge of grading games in your documentary. So that's a little crazy of a thing, but like to answer your question, like we have one guy whose collection is worth $30 million in the film.
Wow.
So that we had to actually fly to Florida, and we had to give him a few months time because collecting video games and valuing video games as like, art pieces is so new that you can't even get like the same kind of like insurance policy that you get for a piece of art or a comic book or a baseball card or whatever, because there's so little people that can evaluate and assign a value to that game. So the maximum you can do is $100,000 worth of stuff at any given bank. Oh, wow. So this guy Eric Nyerman, he's almost like this anti-hero or like this villain to some in the world, because he's like this dentist in Florida who has this $30 million collection and came into the hobby pretty recently, from other stuff. Like he holds the world record for like the most expensive Babe Ruth card ever bought and stuff. He's been on all these things, and like these anti-grading people absolutely hate him. But to get back to what I was saying, he has, having $30 million worth of stuff and only being able to put $100,000 in each bank. We had to give him like 2 months so he could go to all the banks, pull all the stuff from those banks. And then the first time his collection was seen in its entirety was on film in our movie. And it was, we got the location day of in the morning. There was armed security. It was in like the middle of like a conference building. Like there was actually like people like telemarketers around us and everything. And we were in the conference room and they had full glass all around us. And it was completely set up, all the games, like 20-foot shelves of all the games. And like I said, that was the first time they'd ever been seen together at a single time. And he had to tell like all these like insurance people, like this is the date that these games are going to be here. And have to take out this huge insurance policy to cover like if something were to happen or someone were to break in or something like that. So, so yeah, they're welcoming, but some people were more like, more weary about us being in their home and being with their collections and possibly breaking things or whatnot. And we didn't even have like, luckily it wasn't while we were shooting, but one of our remote interviews, the guys had like a remote crew there, someone from New Hampshire shoot their interview. And I'm on the, on a message like I am with you guys right now. And he's like, uh-oh, I got to go. And he just walks off camera. And I had no idea what happened. And then he messages me back and puts the phone as to what's happening. One of the lights had set on fire and actually like almost made his whole game room go up in like flames.
Oh man!
The fire was all the way down the cord, and actually made like a fire mark in the carpet all the way across his entire game room.
Oh man!
Damn.
Yeah,
that would have been
Yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
that's my worst nightmare.
I wonder why they're so against graded games. I wonder if it's because they look at it as you're taking a game off
the market,
being able to be able to play it, or
there's a lot of reasons actually. A lot of it is that there's not a lot of information out there, and there's also a lot of like false information out there. To give you an idea, literally this week, one of the top people in like retro gaming, this guy Pat the NES Punk, released a video basically shitting on our movie, basically being like, I can't believe they have these graders in there and all that kind of stuff. And literally started like it literally says like collecting documentary disappoints and has this guy Eric, the dentist, like on the front of it and stuff. And if you look at the comments, it's literally like just people all building off of each other. But the idea that everybody has is that by collecting these graded games or these sealed games, you are somehow making games more expensive for the average gamer, which I don't think there's an actual divide. And there's a lot of data that shows that there is no, correlation to like the average person who doesn't care, that wants like a beat up copy of like Super Mario Brothers, is not going to be affected by the person who's buying a sealed, pristine copy of Super Mario Brothers. They're never going to intersect. They're like moving parallel to each other. But all these voices that are against gaming are all the people who make all the YouTube videos and stuff. So people that have low information will just follow the loudest voices. So they have all these people who think that like their hobby's being ruined because people are grading games.
How many Sega Genesis games do you have?
I'm about 110 away from the whole set. So I have 625 right now.
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is that a common? Do you have like sealed in case and?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them. I mean, I have complete in box most of them. So manual, manual game in case. I do have probably like 15 to 20 sealed Genesis games that are graded. I have some non-sealed Genesis games that are graded, but primarily like most of my collection is not graded stuff.
Mm-hmm. So you play them? You play most of them?
Oh,
still,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I just can't bring myself. If something's like a $3,000 game, I'm not gonna use that actual game. I'm gonna get a separate copy or something like that.
Right.
Or play it on like an emulator or something like that.
Yeah.
Those people that are bashing the documentary about that, it's like, well, why wouldn't you have that in there? That's part of the whole community. I mean,
yeah, it's weird. It's weird how many people don't know how documentaries work. Like, you don't necessarily agree with every single thing that's in the documentary. Yeah, there's tons of things I do agree with graded games, but there's a lot of things that people say that I don't necessarily agree with. But like, you have to have it in there, especially if it's a hot button issue in the community. And when we made the documentary, like, records were being broken every month as like the most expensive, graded sealed video game that was bought. Literally every month the record was being broken by a different game. So how could you not mention it in a documentary?
Right.
But there's all these like review bomb type people that literally are going on Letterboxd or going on like IMDb, and literally one of the there's a few funny reviews, but like the ones that aren't so funny, one is just like, this is just a ad for Wada Games, the grading company, and this whole documentary is just people showing their graded sealed games, when literally it's only one segment out of 5 in the documentary that have anything to do with graded games. All the rest are nothing to do with sealed games at all. And then we had one guy, I had mentioned that we have these like a segment on the Bible games or whatever, and we're literally just exchanging information. We're showing no one ever says anything negative about these games. Literally just say like, hey, these are these games and these are why they're rare. And, show some snippets as to where you could get these games, show a commercial for these games. And one of the reviews was just a bunch of bigoted YouTubers bashing Christianity.
One thing that the internet has done, it's made a lot of non-tough people tough. Yeah, for sure. Because people that normally wouldn't say shit to you about anything you have or do, all of a sudden now, this is their platform to go say and talk shit anytime they want. Yeah. So you're going to get that in anything, collecting toys, video games, sneakers. Like we were just talking about this over the past week more than ever, because it's gotten so bad, the negativity out there for everything that people do. They nitpick one little tiny thing out of a whole documentary or YouTube video that you do. One little thing, and they just go off on that, and yeah, it's not a good thing.
What exactly goes into like grading a game? Like, does playability go into it, or is it
no? So basically, there's two ways you can grade a game. You can either grade something that's already opened, like complete in box, and what they'll do is they'll take a look at the condition of the box. They'll take a look at the condition of the manual, and they'll take a look at the condition of the game itself, and then assign all of them individual grades, then average them together, and that'll be the grade that you get.
Okay.
All right. So it's all based on the condition. All right. And then for sealed, what they'll do is they'll take what they take into account is, again, the box and then the seal, because you can't see any of the stuff on the inside. So if there's any like stickers on it or residue or like slits in the seal or anything like that, they'll take that into account.
Yeah, it's like crazy to me that these video game collectors would even have an issue with that, because let's say you have, like a sealed copy of Zelda, you get it graded. Well, now it's sealed in a plastic case. Like, so now what it is what it's going to stay, I mean, so I just don't like, they don't even, I mean, I get what you're saying about the price thing, but like you said, it doesn't, they're running parallel anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it
makes it potentially playable years down the line for someone.
Someone
could potentially open that somewhere down the line and enjoy the shit out of it.
Yeah, and these companies too. People think it's because these companies like came out of nowhere. Like specifically this company Wada came out in like 2017, if I'm not mistaken. and they kind of like took the collecting world by storm, where there was already a company called the VGA, Video Game Association, who was grading games. This made it like these games, for whatever reason, became a lot more sought after, these WADA graded games, because of the way they graded, because they had 3 separate grades. It was less vague, I guess, to the average person, because this Video Game Association, they'd only assign 1 grade, but they wouldn't tell you like where those numbers came from. They would just have the grade. Whereas this breaks down like, this is what the manual is, this is what this is, and this is what this is, and this is why you got this grade. So people kind of hate on the creator of that, especially too because he's so young and so successful. I think he just turned like 29 this year. And his company was valued at like hundreds of millions, or not hundreds of millions, but millions and millions of dollars. And he ended up selling it to PGA. So yeah, there's a lot of hate and there's a lot of jealousy, even though people say there's not a lot of jealousy. There's definitely a lot of jealousy because people want some of these games. And if you can't have something or you don't understand something, why not just shit on it? You know what I mean?
Right.
Or they've been fed this information like, oh, because of this, my games are going to be, more expensive. When it's just, it happens in every single market. Every single market has a grading company, and the numbers that are getting thrown out there for video games aren't even close to the numbers being put out there for comic books and stuff. I think there was a Superman comic that just sold for like 500 million or something like that. Insane. Yeah.
Wild. I just started getting into the graded comics.
Yeah. I've been looking at some.
Now imagine if people started yelling at you like, "You break those out of that case. Comics are meant to be read."
Right.
Exactly.
And I'll go buy one to read one.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you have one you keep safe and one you read.
Exactly.
I just don't know why people are always wondering, like, why do they worry about what you do with your shit? I don't.
Yeah, it's probably the same kind of people that like they'll give like a homeless person $10, then like follow them into the store to see what they spend it on. Like, oh, God forbid they spend it on booze. It's like, no, your job is done. Once you give them the $10, like you did your good deed. Who cares what they buy it on? They're an adult. You're not like, you don't have some kind of like, power over them now just because you gave them $10. Let them go and do whatever they want with it.
Yeah, if you care that goddamn much, just give them some McDonald's and bring it to them. At that point,
right? Or whatever. Or don't do it if you're that.
I'm not gonna follow you into the store. I'm gonna either give you a coat, give you a pair of shoes, give you food, or give you money in this trust that you are gonna do the right thing with it.
Yeah, and maybe that guy needs booze. Who knows? Like maybe his life sucks so bad that he needs a 40 right then and there.
I think we all needed booze around the pandemic time. That's why, if you notice, we never ran out of it. That's one thing we never ran out of. It's kind of strange, right? You run out of toilet paper, but you don't run out of any kind of alcohol at all.
Essential business.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I've always found that fascinating that like they never said, oh, there's going to be they did say there was going to be a shortage of maybe beer at one time because of the lack of the what's it called? The gas that you put into cylinders. Yeah. Whatever that gas is, the air, whatever. But it never came to that. The CO2. Yeah. So it never came to that. But they talked about it. But I think that was just a little talk. You get that on the news sometime. But
so the follow up to Rarity, the video game one, is it going to be strictly toy collecting?
So that's not a fault. No, they're complete 2 different documents.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The Rarity one is just going to be another one continuing. I think we finished on chapter 5 in Rarity. It's going to go right into chapter 6. We have a lot of cool stuff. We're going to talk about like imported games and copyright issues and stuff. Something in particular that's like super cool is if you get really niche into the collecting of like, say, for instance, I collect Sega Genesis games. Like if you look at this game called like Revenge of Shinobi, there was an original Revenge of Shinobi that was released in Japan on the Mega Drive, and then once it got ported over to the Genesis, there was only one version of that game that had all the same stuff that was in the Mega Drive version. Reason being is because nobody knew the internet was going to exist in the future, and no one really knew or cared about like copyright laws back then. So this game that was released in Japan had all these copywritten characters in it that Shinobi would go against that they didn't have the rights to. So at one point you fight Terminator, you fight RoboCop, you fight Batman, you fight Spider-Man, you fight Godzilla. And in one version out of 4 that came out in the US, all those characters were still in there. And they patched it over, and then like the rest of the versions had like just regular like what's the word I'm looking for? Generic characters that were replacing those iconic figures and stuff. The only one that stayed in the game was Spider-Man, because Sega had a license for Spider-Man at that time. Mm-hmm. But that version that came out that is still available is super sought after. And what makes it even more sought after is the fact that there's no like discernible like difference on the case or the game itself that shows that it's that version. The only way you know if it's that version is you have to play until like level 3 or 4 to get to that part. And then if the Terminator and stuff is there, then you have the version that you have the version that's that version. So things like that, and then just like the whole copyright thing. Like there's games that came out like wrestling games in Japan that had nothing to do with like the WWF or whatever at the time, but they had like giant like pictures of Hulk Hogan on them to sell them, but his name was like Titan Hogan instead of Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
And then when it came out in America, they changed the cover to some like generic person. So there's a lot of stuff like that we're going to talk about in one of the chapters. We have a whole chapter on like Pokemon games and how they're like, Pokemon items are becoming even more like sought after these days. Stuff on like the championship carts, which are like the Nintendo World Championships and like the Blockbuster World Championships, and how those like competition carts have become very, very sought after, and items that have to do with that, like the jumpsuits and T-shirts and everything like that were given out at those events are becoming like almost as like valuable as the games themselves. Like people are paying thousands of dollars for T-shirts and stuff. Mm-hmm. So yeah, just a lot of stuff, a lot of niche stuff that's gonna hopefully be a lot of stuff that people haven't heard about before in the follow up.
Yeah.
Well, it's definitely stuff I haven't heard of.
Yeah, but I know what, when you said Shinobi, that brings back some memories.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what we look to do, man. Like the best thing I could say is like when people watch the documentary, they were like, "Oh, I forgot about that," and then like it brings this flood back of memories of like who they played it with, where they played it, and what was going on at the time. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah, games, man. I was a Nintendo guy, but I had a Genesis too, and there's a flea market that I'm about to go to like really, really soon that has a lot of older games. So I looked at them last time, and I wasn't ready to pull the trigger on them, but definitely talking to you tonight and just seeing them there, I'm like, man, some of them older games are like the best, like the original Zelda. I remember me and my dad playing that game, and we loved that game. And we were waiting for the Adventure of Link to come out, and we thought it'd be just as good. And it was such a disappointment for me, in my opinion. I didn't really like it as much as I liked the original one. But that was definitely one of the games that stick out. As soon as somebody says, when you said Zelda earlier, immediately I just pictured 1,000 things in my head about that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about older games, because don't get me wrong, I love playing a new open world, beautiful game, but there's something about playing the games we grew up with that you can't beat them. I mean,
yeah, and speaking of like a kind of a knockoff type game, I don't know if you remember. I'm older than you guys, but there was an Atari game called Jawbreaker where it was kind of like Pac-Man, but instead of going around chomping, it was still chomping on things, but it was like a set of it was like jaws, like human jaws, and it was going around, and it would eat the pellets or whatever. And then at the end of the board, when you finish it, it would come out and brush your teeth, and then you start a new board.
Yeah.
And that was one of those games. It's kind of reminded me of what you were talking about, like with the Hulk Hogan and all that. But it was kind of like just a bootleg version of Pac-Man, but they made it work. I thought it was a pretty cool game when the little toothbrush comes out and you're done that board. It was pretty cool. So that's another game that just sticks out in my memories too.
Yeah, it's crazy because like any game you can mention, there's someone that was like their favorite game.
Yeah.
It was like, I'm not saying I've never played that game, but even if like there's a game that you think is like a a crappy game that like you grew up with, you're like, whatever. Someone has a story about that being their favorite game, and here's why.
Definitely.
And I think going back to like what you were saying about there's something about playing these old games. I think it's just the accessibility. It's like you can literally just start playing immediately. You don't have to watch any tutorials or anything like that. 2 buttons, 3 buttons. You just start playing, and you know what to do essentially immediately after like 30 seconds of playing with the remote. So it's like anywhere, anytime, any person you can play with, and there's not going to be any kind of like lag time in watching like tutorials or looking up moves or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The PlayStation 5 I just got recently. Excuse me. I put a game in and it downloads.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, honestly, I didn't get started. I couldn't play the game for like an hour and a half. I'm like, what the shit is this, man? Like, you got to download it and then wait. And then they're doing all these tutorials and they're like, you want to practice this, practice that. Then they have the little movie versions of things going on in it. And I'm like, whoa, like, dude, I tell my wife I'm coming upstairs to try the new game. I'll be like 20 minutes. 2 hours later, I'm just getting started.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like I do not like that part of these new games for sure. And I got the disc version.
Yeah.
I'm mad. I don't even know, like, is it worse when you have the just the downloadable version? I don't know. I don't know if it can be any worse. I mean, I was 2 solid hours before I got started.
Jeez.
Yeah. And I'd rather just put the disc in, or for the Nintendo, you do you blow into it and then you put it in the machine because you got to get it to work because of the dust and all that. I remember all that crap, but it was easier then.
Yeah.
A lot easier.
Well, like you said, you just knew what to do. You had to start and you had to finish. Don't get me wrong. There was those levels that you'd be stuck on for 3 days. But
yeah, especially like Zelda. Yeah. I mean, I was stuck. I couldn't, I didn't beat Ganon right away. No, I mean, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, I remember every kid thought it was like the biggest thing in the world when the Game Genie came out and they could skip levels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't really remember how hard those games were until you try to go play them now.
Yeah. Yeah, we had the little cheat book and we'd go through it and look and like go pages ahead because I'm like, we'll be here forever.
Yeah.
We don't cheat a little bit,
I bring up I had for Super Nintendo, it was the game for the Lion King movie.
Mm-hmm.
And there was, to this day, I cannot get past the level where you have to use you swing from like tails of the like elephants and stuff.
Yeah.
Still can't, to this day, I don't know how anybody can get past that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the games there's a few games I only beat once in my life. Lion King, I only beat once and I could never get past that level again. And then Mortal Kombat 2, I remember I beat Kentaro. Like I would always get to Kentaro and not be able to beat him. And I finally was able to, and then beat Shao Kahn. And Mortal Kombat 2, I only to this day beat one time in my entire life.
Yeah. Another one is Mike Tyson's Punch Out. Man, I had the hardest time beating his ass. But finally you get that thing down pat where you move to the side a couple times and then hit him, move to the opposite side. We finally got it, but it was a nightmare trying to beat him.
Yeah.
That's probably a little past your time, but I don't know. You probably.
Oh, no. I definitely played Nintendo stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I was a Nintendo guy growing up, but I did have the Sega, but I wasn't into like the Sonic the Hedgehog type stuff much.
Yeah.
That kind of made me sway away from it, but I know a lot of people. I know Ethan Page. If you watch Ethan Page's toy collecting shows, he does a lot of Genesis games. AEW wrestler Ethan Page.
Yeah, yeah.
he collects a lot of the same stuff you collect, I'm sure. So
He's someone I was looking into try and getting for the toy documentary, actually.
oh yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. He needs all kind of permissions and all that stuff too, probably, but from the wrestling company.
Yeah.
But yeah, you'd have a better chance of doing that than we would. I would love to have him on here, but
Yeah.
I don't think that's doable.
You never know.
Never know. I didn't think, like I said, we appreciate having you on because I didn't think you'd be able to come on here. I thought you were too busy, had a lot going on, would never get to my DM. Who knows? But yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate you guys working with me. That now I know in the future, just go right to the laptop and not try the phone.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, hey, we got to have you on longer. We're not, I'm good. So
Cool, man.
as long as you're good, I'm good. So yeah. So what's next on your agenda as far as a movie? You're working on something, you said. I don't know how much you can say about it, but what's next?
Yeah, so right now I have a movie that I'm working on. It's a one-location horror film. It takes place in New England, but really it takes place anywhere where there's snow and, a big house or cabin or something like that. But basically it's about a Thanksgiving between a family, and they start to all get possessed one by one by demons. And they all get possessed in like different ways that you see throughout the film. It's really like a slow burn type of thing until there's one lady left, and she has to try and survive like all her family that has become demons. And then besides those documentaries, I still do my full-time job on the side is I make commercials full-time.
Okay.
So I'm doing like 3 to 7 commercials a month just for tons of random companies, whoever wants to hire me.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of me right now.
Nice. What kind of commercials? Anything we would have saw every day commercials here? Or?
I mean, no. Usually they're for like startups and like smaller companies.
Okay.
Yeah, with the commercials, it's more like a quality over quantity type of thing, or quantity over quality type of thing. As in, like, people only have like $2,000 or something like that, and they want me to do everything from start to finish with a $2,000 budget. I'm just moving a little bit because I just saw my wife try to come in the house and she didn't want to disturb us. So I'm gonna go back to the office with the laptop though.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what's on the docket for me right now. This is my horror stuff.
Yeah, I was just looking. I was trying to check that out as you went. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, this is some more like sign. That's a full signed like Sin City poster.
Nice.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah.
Figures and stuff.
That's cool.
And then back in the office, it's a little dark. My light got knocked over by my cats, and it's one of those situations where like the light is so far, the cord's like so far back behind like some of the stuff that it's almost like impossible to get to the cord again unless I like pull a bunch of stuff out. I just haven't had the time to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
that's where you keep most of your figures back there and things like that. The turtles.
Yeah, back there is the my DVD collection, and then like a bunch of figures. There's a case there beside me right here is this whole case is Ninja Turtles.
Nice.
Yeah, I got some more Ninja Turtle stuff. Like, I don't know if you can see up there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Got the DTOF. Got the DTOF there.
Yeah.
Every collector has to have a DTOF or 2 or 10. Right? It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like the common thing now.
Yeah. What's your like favorite figure or collectable possession that you have? What's your grail? I guess I'm asking. I hate asking.
I have a few right now, actually, just offhand. So I have this prototype. This is Boogerman for the Super Nintendo. But I do have a bunch of other prototypes here as well, and just like sealed stuff. I'll grab some things here.
So how's our chat doing? We got Dave. Oh, T3 had a question actually.
Oh yeah, I didn't even see that.
He wanted to know if he knew Pixel Game Squad.
What's that?
Oh, one of our friends in the chat wanted to know if you knew any of the guys from Pixel Game Squad.
Oh yeah, Riff is a producer on Rarity, and he's in it. So, and the whole Pixel Game Squad is going to be in part 2, both as a group and then with their individual interviews. So here are some more Grails. This is I don't know if the light's too much. Let me take it out of the case. So I have like sample copies of like this is Double Dragon for the
nice.
Oh wow.
Yeah, for the Sega Genesis.
That's another game that brings back memories. Right.
I have prototypes of like this is like Dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
Prototype for that.
Right.
I have a sample copy of this is Techno Cop for the Genesis. And then toy wise, I got a Metlar. You know those huge figures back in the day? They were like in a what the hell was the series called? Off the top of my head, I'm forgetting what the series is called, but they were like the biggest action figures you could get. And I got the Metlar at a not a yard sale, a thrift store for $40, and the toy to go at that point went for like $370. So, and they're like huge. They're like, this big.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 15, 20-inch figures. So
yeah. Huh.
The whole collecting world is just amazing to me right now.
Yeah. Yeah. What is he?
Any questions? I don't even see the chats.
You don't? No, I don't see any questions. I was trying to read what some of them are writing, but
Oh, I guess I see it now. Very cool.
yeah.
I didn't see the questions before. Yeah, I would have said, yeah, I'll answer them. Whoever.
We try to go back and forth, but when you're having good conversation and you're telling stories, yeah, we don't usually try to interrupt to do that, but yeah.
Yeah. Someone said Phoenix Resale uses water for grading. He's actually in part 2 of Rarity as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's one of the bigger people in part 2. We already did his interview, so he's definitely in.
He's locked.
Yeah.
He's a lock.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to watching those.
Yeah, there's some good stories too, man. There's some like human interest stories that are just like so powerful. Like this husband and wife for 15 years. It was their goal to not only like have their own Sega Genesis company where they would make like Sega Genesis games today for like these old systems, but to also offer people to play them in a pizza place that they made themselves, like a pizza restaurant. Mm-hmm. And as of this year, they have the property for the pizza restaurant. They haven't put any of the stuff in yet, but it's about to happen after like 15 years. So there's going to be this like retro pizza place where you can sit down, have a pizza, and play on these old TVs and stuff. Play Sega Genesis games. In this pizza place, it also looks like it's like a house. It doesn't even look like it's like a typical like restaurant or something like that.
That's awesome. We need more stuff like that. I don't know. It's just as of lately, like there's not stuff like that to do. I mean, that's awesome. I'd love to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have some stuff lined up for both the toy documentary and the and Rarity 2 in Houston. We're gonna go to this guy Raul's. You said you watch like Ed's Retro Geek Out stuff. He met with this guy Raul, who had this huge collection with like 20-foot ceilings and stuff, that he actually has like those library ladders to like climb up to different parts of his collection. We're going to go through all of his stuff down in Houston. And then at the same time, for Rarity, there's someone else who's in the Houston area, and he has the Guinness record of the most Sonic the Hedgehog items in the world. And we're going to go through some of his rarest items and stuff.
Jesus.
Yeah, and then we just got some other stuff planned. Like we're going to go to the world's biggest arcade museum. This place in New Hampshire that has 3 floors. The top floor is 70s games, and then the middle floor is 80s and 90s, and then the bottom is like, current games.
Mm-hmm.
And they just keep them in like museum quality, as far as condition and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to talk to the owner of that. We're trying to get that in line, and then interview some people in New Hampshire as well who are game collectors.
Well, it sounds
Very
like you're
cool.
just living the dream right now. I mean,
Yeah, he's making me jealous. There is a I went to a place. Me, my wife, and her cousin and her husband went to an old arcade, and it had it had some current stuff, but it had some really old arcade games, real old pinball games, and they actually had like a back room where it was set up with like the big TVs with the wood sides and the wood grain top.
Yeah.
And they had like the old video game systems hooked up to it with really old chairs and couches. So it was really cool. Like that whole place was really, really nostalgic for me. I walked around there. I videoed a little bit of it for my channel, and it brought back some memories for sure. But just those them wood TVs and them old ass couches and people, they just had the games hooked up and people were sitting there playing them. It was pretty cool to see.
it's amazing what's out there because like I got a buddy that he's been following my YouTube channel since day one, and he was like, I was just in Milwaukee, and I'm like, oh yeah, and he's like telling me how he's at this bobblehead museum here in Milwaukee, and I'm like, what? I'm like, what are you talking about? Turns out there's a bobblehead museum like 2 miles down the road from me, like literally on the same road that I live on, just 2 miles down the road. Knew nothing about it.
You must just go out and go right and never go left. So
that's true. Yeah, that's
oh wow!
Isn't that always how it happens? There's a game store within walking distance of my place that I didn't know about it until 2 years after it was already there. Just because it's like it says Game Realms, but like you don't know if that's like board games or what. And if it was board games, it's something that I wouldn't be really that interested in. So for the longest time, I would just drive by it until finally. Oh, and you can't like see into the store when you look in because they have it like set up so they're all their cashiers are like in the front, and you can't see into the store. You just see the cash registers. So I finally went in there. Just happened to be going on a walk and went in there and saw this huge game store and was like, oh wow, I need to come here more often. And then later down the line, ended up shooting part of a movie there and stuff. So,
and then you're sitting there like, why didn't I do this like 5 years ago? Yeah.
Oh, one of the things I wanted to bring up too that I totally forgot about the whole, where we talk about imports and that kind of thing. One of the cool things that not a lot of people know about, again, with the Sega Genesis is there was not an embargo, but basically there was something that happened in Brazil where the government basically gave you this like this tax exemption or some kind of tax credit if you manufactured stuff only made in Brazil. They were trying to make everything in Brazil and not bring in any outside like trade or anything like that. So what that did, without them like knowing that it was going to happen, was it made it so to this day the Sega Genesis is one of the most popular systems in Brazil because all these companies started making specifically in-country games for the Genesis and hadn't stopped still. They're still making them today. But there's a company, Tech Toy, that pretty much took over that made it so all these games got released. Now they're like super rare, some of them too. Like they release games that were on like the PlayStation and stuff like that and PlayStation 2 for the Genesis. So it's like these games that are, huge games with crazy graphics put on this little Genesis cart. So we go all into that and talk to people in Brazil and that kind of thing too. So,
wow, I mean, I've just learned so much just tonight in the book of video game.
Yeah, I know. It's and like I said earlier, like video games, I don't care who you are, anyone you name, it's going to bring back a memory for somebody.
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I can just see the rabbit hole that you get sucked down collecting that stuff because you start off like thinking, hey, I'm just going to collect this stuff that I had when I was younger, and now you're talking all this crazy shit you just brought up. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I mean, it's cool stuff. So there's no way in hell you're not going to be drawn to it.
Yeah.
Right.
And like the flea market I was gonna go to like weeks ahead, now I may go this weekend, thanks to you. So yeah,
I'm glad I can contribute to your future collecting problems.
and the first
Right.
game is Shinobi. I want that one. Like I want that now.
Yeah.
I really loved that game back then. There's a bunch of them that just bring back so many memories. But before we get out of here, is there anything you want to plug? I know we talked about what you have coming, but anything else you want to throw out there?
Actually, I got to ask him one thing
Okay,
before
go
we.
ahead.
Sure.
I just watched that documentary about the Lost Massacre thing. Has there been any update on that?
I mean, not really, not officially. I did get contacted by a few people who are trying to help with the search. Some guy, let's just say that he works for government agencies and has access to things that other people do not, as far as like tracking things down. He said he was going to try to help me figure out who got certain things. Specifically like the person who bought the tapes and stuff online. But really just people that like message me, I get like daily DMs from people being like, I had no idea that this movie even existed. Not only does it exist, but it stars Chop Top. That's crazy. I'm a huge Texas Chainsaw fan. And we go over it a little bit in the documentary, but like, it's just insane how many people don't know this movie exists. And people that like consider themselves huge Texas Chainsaw fans, people with like tattoos all over them and everything, like, but have never heard of All American Massacre.
I've never heard of it. No.
Yeah. So we're hoping to shed the light, but like I said, pretty much just the only thing I get contacted about is people saying like just that, like, is there any updates or maybe I have a lead and then the lead really doesn't pan out, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe pressure to release the film. Who knows?
You got our info. Let us know if you find out. I'm interested in that, being a Texas Chainsaw Massacre fan. I had no idea. But that's pretty cool stuff. It almost makes you wonder, like, what else is out there that was never released,
Yeah.
Like, what else, can we dig for,
Yeah, they keep, Hollywood keeps just doing all these remakes and stuff, and they got stuff like this,
Well, they say they're never going to release this Batgirl film, so I'm assuming years from now someone's going to uncover that, and that's going to be a big thing.
Right, yeah.
Yep. So anything else you want to plug before we let you go for the night?
I mean, just that if you guys are interested in any of these things, specifically, my productions or Rarity itself, Rarity has a Facebook page. It's just Rarity Retro Video Game Collecting in the Modern Era. And then my general production company page is an Anti-Hero Production. If you go there. And then I'm also, like you guys say, I'm very accessible. If you message me on Instagram, it's just an Anti-Hero Production with underscores in between each. I would love to hear from you guys. What you want to see in the new documentary, or if you just want to chat or whatever. I'm totally down.
I'll put all your links and stuff in the bio.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you ever want to chat again, we'd be more than love to have you back on.
Yeah, you can come on anytime you want, because like we say, once you're on, you're a friend for life. We say that every week. So
whenever you guys want, man. And now that I know that only to use the laptop, we can not waste 30 minutes trying to go through different ways to get on there.
It's a learning process. Hey.
Yeah.
That's why we named our show what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. But yeah, I can't thank you enough. We can't thank you enough for giving us time, and also for being so receptive on the DMs. I really appreciate that. So, like we said, anytime you want to come back on, you're more than welcome. We'll talk. We'll keep in touch. But for now, everybody, thanks for checking in tonight. Thanks for being in the chat. Thanks for bearing with us through the technical difficulty. But as you see, it was well worth it. We learned a lot tonight. It was a very fun show. Please come back on. We'll talk about that again, too. And for now, that's what effing figures. And we'll see you Sunday at 9 a.m.
See you later.